All right, quick little video. So, a few of you have been asking me a lot of questions tonight, and that's why I created the little Facebook group thing to answer some of the questions conjointly, and so you guys can share information among yourselves. But this one's going to be about the waves. So, we got our little graph there. Obviously, it's not drawn to scale, not going to be, not looking for perfection. On down here, you see time, okay? And this could be 1 month, it could be 1 day, it could be years, it could be any unit. And obviously, you got the total numbers here. So you got total infected or dead over a period of time. So what happens in pandemics is you always start out at 0. And something new happens, some new disease, virus, bacteria, whatever. And usually you get, in the beginning, people are not very aware of it. So you usually get a steep incline. Then once people start becoming aware of it, start being scared and isolating themselves, it'll level off and then it'll drop down. And then as the total number of cases go away, people start to get complacent. And so what they do is they start coming out of their homes, start talking to each other, spending time with each other, and then somewhere down the line, the people who are infected but aren't dying immediately from it, because there are people who can be carriers, there are people who can remain infected for, a month, 2 months before they start dying from it. Other people will start dying from it within days. Just look at the plague, look at the Spanish flu, proven throughout history that that's how it goes. So you'll have this lull, and then once people start coming back together, they stop taking the precautions that they normally do, it jumps back up. But because people, they notice that it wasn't so bad here, they don't immediately jump back into those precautions. So usually you'll get a sharper rise, and it'll be much higher. And then people start taking precautions, and over a little bit of time, the infection slows, the spread slows, and then it starts leveling out, and then it drops down again. But people, being the creatures of habit, they start thinking, okay, well, it reached a low back here relatively quick, so it's going to do the same over here. So people are a little bit slower to start taking these precautions and doing things, and then they're quicker to start returning back to normal life. And that's when it starts leveling off again. And then usually, there's been a few diseases in different areas, especially in Africa. Africa is a third world country, even though it's a continent made up of many countries. All in all, it's a third world country. They can't get their shit together for nothing. Like, they're still killing people over shit that their tribe did to them, 20, 30, 40 generations back. Some insult or whatnot. And so then you get this slow, steady increase, usually on the third wave. And then it spikes. And then it levels off. And then it starts dropping back down. Okay, usually that's where it ends with most major diseases. Okay, but as you see, it comes, peaks, dies down. You get it, you're low. Comes, peaks, dies down. Comes, peaks, dies down. And this is what people mean by waves. That, and it happens over time. They could be months, it could be weeks, it could be years. There's a lot of theory out there about this one of it being less than a year, 5, 6, 7 months down the line. And there's other theories about it won't come back again for years. There's already talk about the corona coming back in China, and it's only been a few months. So, but that's a whole nother story for another day. The thing with this is that the death rate usually is low, and it stays low, right? The total number. And then on these laws, usually you get a slight increase because these people that are still infected are dying, but they're not thinking of it as so serious. It's a psychology thing. They see everybody recovering and stuff like that, so they wait longer to go to hospitals or to seek medical care. 1,000 years ago, they didn't have that choice because everybody thought it was demons and spirits and stuff like that, when it was just actually bacteria and viruses. So it does slightly increase at a rapid rate, and then it kind of levels off until the next peak. So it's always climbing. But with the total deaths, it never goes down. Even if they cure it right here, the total death stays the same. But it does plateau, and it does increase, and it does plateau, and it does increase, and it does plateau, and it does increase, and it does plateau. Even if they somehow cure, like say the COVID virus, they somehow cure it so it dies down. Total new infected every day drops to flat zero. You're still going to have people that are too far gone that are going to be increasing the total deaths over time. So even though the total infected are increasing and decreasing and increasing and decreasing, increasing, decreasing, the trend for deaths is going to go up and up and up and continue up. And that's what concerns a lot of people, especially when you get spikes, in there, because people are going to get complacent after this first one. And so when it drops down, people are going to, right in this area, are going to go, you know what? That wasn't so bad. It was relatively chill. Not very many people died. Because remember, the deaths have to catch up to the infected. You got to have 100 people or more infected before you can have 100 deaths from it. It's basic common sense. If only 10 people ever get infected, you're never going to have 1 million deaths. So the deaths are playing catch up. And it's because they're playing catch up is that people are complacent. They think, 100,000 people got infected, but only a few hundred died. That's not that bad. Worldwide, we're at over 1 million supposedly infected, with only 50-something thousand dead. That ends up being a 0.5% fatality rate. That's very small. If you look up the numbers on the, let's spell it right, the H5N1, it had a 22% fatality rate. 22% is a lot higher than 5. Okay? If the COVID was 22%, you'd have 220,000 people dead right now as opposed to just 50,000. So, huge difference. Absolutely massive, huge difference. Or did I say 0.5? Must be 5. I think that's 5%. I'll have to do the math later. Okay, but so these waves that you hear, some people talking about, some people are not, that blue line represents it. And that blue line is basically made up by human psychology. It's not made up by medicine or anything like that. You have periods where people become highly alert, so it drops down. People become complacent, so it spikes up. People become alert and more cautious, drops down. People become complacent again because they're creatures of habit. And the thing is, when you're repeatedly exposed to something bad, it has less and less and less of a terror effect on you. People call it stress conditioning, stress inoculation, fear inoculation. If you're slowly exposed to something, you become less and less afraid of it. So in cases of diseases, you take less and less precautions. That's why these lows don't drop down. Like this one will never drop down to the same one this is. One, because there's just too many damn people infected for it to ever really do that. And two, if you notice, like this, the first one usually drops by 75%. The second one drops by 50%. And the third one is when biology actually starts taking over, and people who are immune or become immune because their bodies are able to successfully fight it off, that's when the medical side takes over. And so we're not really too concerned with that, because past plagues and diseases, this is usually years out. And this is all a biological thing. This is not something we can influence. Your body is either capable of fighting it off or it's not. If you remain fit, if you remain healthy, if you keep your good bacteria up in your body, if you keep your stress levels low, you eat healthy, you eat natural, you can influence this somewhat. But at the end of the day, you don't really have much of a say. Either your body fights it off or it doesn't. But that's years down the line. This part here, when it's just ramping up, that is 100% controlled by human psychology. Now that we have better medicine than we did 500 years ago, we're able to influence this a little bit more. But if people don't remain cautious and alert, they're going to fall back into complacency. And that complacency is going to kill you. That complacency is what's going to cause these spikes to come back. And they're going to come back sharper and faster, because people are going to wait longer to take isolation precautions. People are going to wait longer to start seeking medical treatment. So, and what we're blessed with nowadays is we do have some fantastical medical treatment compared to 100 years ago or 500 years ago. Stuff people were dying from, your average person can save you from. A big thing back in Vietnam was people bleeding to death. Hell, even back in the beginning of the Iraq War, which happened less than 20 years ago, started less than 20 years ago, people were bleeding out on the battlefield. But now they have a Stop the Bleed program that is teaching people how to prevent that. And that's one of the major causes of death on a battlefield. And that's something that could literally, a small one-day classroom thing, and most of the injuries that soldiers died from just a decade ago are now survivable with just some average Joe Blow who doesn't even have a high school diploma. So our medical advances have increased greatly, but this is still going to be controlled by human psychology, and we are creatures of habit. The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And with this, we know people become super alert, super strict, and it takes a sharp drop off. Very, very, very beginning. But then people become complacent, and they're slow to react. They're slower to react the second time, because they think, hey, the first time wasn't so bad. And so they don't take as much precautions, and they throw caution to the wind, and they get right back out there, and they're slower to take the precautions once things start ramping up again. So it spikes even faster. And then when the third time comes around, oh my God, like once you could say is a mistake, twice is a habit, third time is a choice. So, that's what we tell people when you're trying to fix behavior or build new habits, destroy old habits. The first time you screw something up, you could say, oh, that was an accident. But the second time, it's starting to become a habit, because you've shown your body how to do it once, or your mind, and now you've done it a second time, so you reinforced it, which makes this one come back faster and more deadly. It's the total number is going to ramp up. And the thing is, once people start realizing that the news media and everybody's lying to them, they're not going to listen to them a second time. And so people, when they do come out and say, hey, this stuff is spreading again, they're not going to listen. You know, it's like the boy that cried wolf. Say it one too many damn times and people aren't going to listen and you're going to die. The boy that cried wolf is a great lesson on human psychology. But for those of you who didn't know, the point of this video was to tell you a little bit about the waves and explain it to you. And that's what these are. You know, you see it come up, come, crest, crash, come, crest, crash, just like a wave out in the ocean. Be cautious of this. Do not be complacent. You know, even though I don't think this is much of a deadly disease, if it's a disease at all, because of their testing methods have proven extremely valuable, it doesn't matter. This applies to everything, all diseases, all natural disasters, whatever it is. If you notice the people who went through a hurricane for the first time, they're super paranoid, super scared. They take all these precautions. And then when the hurricane dies down before it hits land, they think, oh, that's it. Oh, I don't have to do all this stuff to prepare. That was just a waste of money. So the next time when they hear a hurricane's coming, they don't take as much precaution. And if that one doesn't die down before it hits land, it slams the crap out of them, and they're like, what the hell, you know? So this is human psychology 101, and this is how humans react to every disaster.